We had an agreement.
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 We had an agreement, Jimmy.
I thought we had an agreement.
We have an agreement.
He and I had an agreement.
So, we have an agreement?
So do we have an agreement?
An agreement to do what?
Agreement? Agreement? What type of agreement are they talking about? Hello, Assalamualaikum, and welcome to our lesson today. And today, we're going to look at one thing that is really confusing, but it's not that difficult actually. We're going to look at subject-verb agreement. So by the end of the lesson today, you will be able to understand the concept of subject-verb agreement, able to identify errors in sentence related to subject-verb agreement, and able to write effectively following the subject-verb agreements rule. Imagine it this way. There's a guy named subject and another guy named verb. These two people would like to make an agreement. The agreement between them is that the subject said, "Hey verb, if you want to be with me, you have to agree with me and you have to follow me." Meaning to say, if I'm single, you have to be single as well. The same concept applies to subject-verb agreement, where the subject and the verb must agree with one another in number. If the subject is singular, the verb must also be singular. And if the subject is plural, the verb must be in plural as well. But wait, how do we make verb into singular and plural form? To make a verb into a singular form, simply plus as at the end of the verb. If it is a plural form, there's no need to put as at the end of the verb. Now that we know that, let's look at what are the other explanations for subject-verb agreements rules. Number 1. If the subject is singular, the verb must be singular too. For example, she writes every day. Notice the subject here is singular. Hence, we change the verb into singular form. Number 2. If the subject is plural, the verb must also be plural. For example, they write every day. Notice the subject is in plural form. Hence, the verb is in plural form too. Number 3. When the subject of the sentence is composed of two or more nouns or pronouns connected by and, use a plural verb. For example, the doctoral students and the committee members write every day. The subject here is in plural form. Doctoral student, committee members. Hence, we use verb in plural form. Number 4. When there is one subject and more than one verb, the verb throughout the sentence must agree with the subject. Example, interviews are one way to collect data and allow researchers to gain an in-depth understanding of participant. Notice the subject here is interviews in plural form. The following verb must appear in plural form as well. Number 5. When a phrase comes between subject and the verb, remember that the verb still agrees with the subject, not the noun or pronoun in the phrase following the subject of the sentence. For example, the students as well as the committee members is excited. Notice the subject here is the student in singular form. Hence, the verb is in singular form. Number 6. When two or more singular nouns or pronouns are connected by or nor, use singular verb. For example, the chairperson or the CEO approves the proposal before proceeding. Notice the subject here is either chairperson, singular, or CEO, singular. Hence, we use verb in singular form. Number 7. When a compound subject contains both a singular and a plural noun or pronoun joined by or nor, the verb should agree with the part of subject that is closest to the verb. For example, have a look at the subject. It is the combination of singular and plural subject. In this situation, we look at what subject is the closest to the verb. If the subject is in singular form, the verb use singular form. If the subject in plural form, the verb is in plural form. For example, the student or the committee members write every day. Committee members is plural, close to the verb. Hence, the verb is in plural form. The committee members or the student writes every day. Notice the student is in singular form. Hence, the verb appears in singular form. Number 8. The words or phrases each one, either, neither, everyone, everybody, anyone, anybody, nobody, somebody, someone, and no one are singular and require a singular verb. For example, each of the participants was willing to be recorded. The subject here is each and it is in singular form, hence the verb appears in singular form. Number 9. Uncountable noun take the singular verb. For example, education is the key to success. Education is uncountable noun. Hence, we use the verb in singular form. Number 10. Some countable noun in English, such as earnings, goods, odds, surroundings, proceeds, contents, and valuables, only have a plural form and take a plural form verb. For example, the earnings for this quarter exceed expectation. Notice the subject in plural form, hence the verb also appear in plural form. Number 11. In sentences beginning with there is or there are, the subject follows the verb. Since there is not the subject, the verb agrees with what follows the verb. For example, there are many factors affecting teachers' retention. Notice the word factors here appears in plural form and that is the subject for the sentence. The verb appears in plural form. Number 12. Collective nouns are words that imply more than one person but are considered singular and take a singular verb. For example, the group meets every day. The group here is the subject and appear in singular form. Hence, the verb appears in singular form.
Whew, that's a lot of things to remember. But don't worry, let's put what you have learned into a task. Here is what you have to do. Simply choose the correct form of the verb that agrees with the subject. Let's look at the first one. Annie and her brothers at school. What would be the answer? 10 seconds from now. The answer, Annie and her brothers are at school. Because Annie and her brother is the subject and they appears in plural form. Next one. The dog or the cat outside. 10 seconds from now. Time's up. The dog or the cat is outside. Notice the word or there in the subject, which means the subject must be in singular form and the verb must follow in singular form as well. Next one. The players as well as the captain to win. 10 seconds from now. Alright. The players as well as the captain want to win. Why want? Because the subject here is the players in plural form. Next one. George and Tamara want to see that movie. Which one is it? 10 seconds from now. Alright. George and Tamara don't want to see the movie. George and Tamara happens to be in plural form. Next one. The man with all the birds on my street. 10 seconds from now. Alright, the man with all the birds lives on my street. Notice the subject here is the man, not the birds. Hence, the verb appear in singular form. Alright, that's all the lesson that you have to know about subject-verb agreement. I hope you enjoyed this lesson. Until we meet again. Ta-da!